not supposed to be attracted to everybody.
Yeah.
What chaos would ensue if you were?
So true.
Like, at the
so
end
true.
of the day, you're only supposed to end up with one person, so life's going to be a lot better if you don't, like,
that's really
have
true.
a crush on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Crab and the Cross podcast. I'm your host, Mary Rose, and my guest today is Clare McCallan. She is a spoken word poet who runs a home for artists in Boston and travels the country performing and putting on poetry workshops. She is totally living the boho artist lifestyle, which I love. I could never do it, but I love that she is doing it and thriving. I love that there is not just one lifestyle that you have to be living as a faithful Catholic. There really is space for everybody. We talk about how she got her start, what her inspiration is, what she's doing now. And then in the middle, we have a fantastic conversation about dating as Catholic women, especially women who are getting up there in years, so to speak, which basically means we're over the age of 25. It was really refreshing to talk to somebody who is kind of in the same boat that I am. And it's nice to know that nobody's enjoying this process. Like, nobody who's in the Catholic dating world is just having a blast. Like, we're all kind of dragging our feet and a little bit miserable. There's a lot of people out there who will try to give you dating advice on, a step-by-step process, a magic formula, the perfect prayer that you can pray to find a spouse. And I'm here to tell you that it is all crap. There's no one way. There's no step-by-step protocol. I know people who met in high school, people met in college, people met in grad school. I know people who met on Catholic Match, on secular dating apps, on Instagram. I know people met through setups, through mutual friends, and people who just met totally randomly. So there's no one guaranteed path to finding a spouse as a Catholic. And there's definitely not one perfect prayer that you can pray, because I've prayed all of them twice, and it just doesn't work that way. I mean, it does for some people, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm just unlucky. But what I've really come to realize in my own experiences is just I really do depend on God for everything. There's kind of a poverty in singleness where it doesn't necessarily matter how many dates you go on or how much you put yourself out there. I know tons of people who literally married the first person they ever dated. And then there are other people who've gone on 20, 30, 40 dates and are still single. So it really comes down to that mysterious interplay of our free will and God's providence. You have to choose somebody, they have to choose you back, and God has to permit it to proceed. So my single Catholic friends out there, hang in there. I think the number one thing that single Catholics need is just encouragement, because it's very easy to give up when you've been doing something and aren't having any results. So with that, definitely follow Clare on Instagram, because she posts dating advice and also has people share their dating lives on a weekly basis, and it's just really fun to follow along with. So if you need some community in that regard, check her out. If you like this conversation, make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. Also subscribe to me on YouTube. I have a new YouTube video coming out very soon. Follow me on Instagram at the Crab and the Cross podcast, on Twitter at Crab and the Cross, and I think those are the places. All right, and now my conversation with Clare McCallan. Clare McCallan is a spoken word artist, community organizer, and television host whose work focuses on the intersection of virtue and adventure. She has completed 2 North American poetry tours, performing at universities, churches, and community centers. She is the author of 2 books, Stations and Mangers. In 2022, she began co-hosting CatholicTV's morning show, This Is the Day, and the Believe Network's Crush the Podcast. She currently serves as the creative director of St. Joseph's Home for Artisans. Clare, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me and for having so much patience with my my artistic ways, whether it was, I feel like it's important to let your audience know that I had to reschedule, or so I thought, because I thought yesterday was Thursday, but it was a Wednesday. And then today you called me and I was like, okay, just heads up. I'm taking this on the go. I'm walking through the city of Boston while I take this call. So yeah. I so appreciate your flexibility. You're really diving into working with artists.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this I think will be the first walking podcast.
Yeah. I'm a big walker. I'm really passionate about walking. So you're really getting me in my truest form.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Boston?
So I grew up in Massachusetts, and then I went to school in Ohio at Franciscan University.
Oh,
and yeah, go Barons. And lived in New York for a couple of years. Pandemic hit. I was like, oh, I'll just ride it out because I figured it would only be like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll ride it out back in Massachusetts. That didn't happen. So I've been here since the beginning of the pandemic. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll stay there for a couple weeks.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, surprise, you live here now. Yeah.
So did you go to crash with your parents at first, or?
It was a family friend's cabin. Nice. And I mean, I really just had nothing to do because at that point I was a full-time performing artist.
Okay.
So it was like one of the industries that got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I was a traveling performing artist. So it was like, not only was it the theater, it's like I needed to go places.
Right.
Couldn't get on airplanes. So I really had nothing to do. So I started training for a marathon with my best friend because I was just in the woods. So I was just running 15 miles a day in the woods.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't have that much else to do. My work was completely, there was no opportunity. So yeah. I did that. And then it became clear that the pandemic was going to be a much longer situation. So I had to take a break from creative work pretty much entirely. And as I passed the world's loudest truck, it's a damage prevention specialist, whatever that is. But I actually took a job as a live-in assistant for young women with severe autism for a year before I founded St. Joseph's Home for Artisans and moved into my current neighborhood, the North End of Boston.
Okay, gotcha. Wow.
Yeah, it's a little all over the place.
Yeah. So,
like I said, the artist's way.
I love it. You're very boho.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So before the pandemic, were you traveling primarily just performing your poetry, or did you have shows that you had worked on?
Yeah. So I created my own shows. The easiest way to explain to people is kind of like a comedy special.
Okay.
So it's like a 45-minute set and then 15 minutes for Q&A. And that's if I'm only given, so those are primarily at universities, community centers, churches, arts centers. And in a perfect world, what I do is I do my show on a Friday night. And then I do a writing workshop with students, community members, whoever, Saturday mornings, so that I can host an open mic for them Saturday night so they can try their hand at self-expression in the art form themselves.
That's really cool. So what was
so it's kind of an interactive.
Yeah. What was the theme of your show?
Yeah. So the first show was themed around something I described as American leprosy because I had just gotten back from serving with the Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked briefly. I had an experience with the leprosy village that she helped establish there. And it deeply moved me. And it's really a physical touch ministry because the big issue here, the people are completely self-sufficient. They don't need any sort of saviors flown in from Boston, but it's a physical touch ministry. And so you really just go there to hug and kiss and braid the hair of people who have been told over and over again, you're too scary.
Wow.
Because that is just the most dehumanizing thing for those people. And it's not unlike when I got back to the U.S. and I started living in New York, realizing the dehumanizing nature of how we treat people experiencing homelessness or refusing to give them physical touch, or the difference it makes when it's one thing to throw $1 or $2 at someone, but asking them their name, chatting with them a little bit, shaking their hand, giving them a hug, and communicating wordlessly. I don't think you're dirty. I don't think you're scary. You're just another person. And physical touch humanizes us so much. So that was the theme of my first show. And my second show, I reimagined famous biblical stories through spoken word poetry and kind of modernize them to allow my audience to imagine themselves in those situations.
Oh, wow. So how long were you in Calcutta?
3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a nice chunk of time, and just one of the most valuable experiences of my life, hands down. Probably the most valuable experience of my life.
Was that after college?
Yeah, it was pretty much immediately after college.
Wow.
I graduated without a lot of direction, and so I'm not one of those people who like had been reading Mother Teresa for years and praying about it and waiting for a sign. I was just super lost. I'm one of like the dumb sheep that God has to like come and grab himself. I just had a friend call me who was that person, who was that super thoughtful, meditative, reading, praying person. And he was like, do you want to come to India? And I was like, well, I don't have anywhere else to be. And so I went with them.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not. Sometimes, you know, it's always good to remember, sometimes God uses the idiots too. That's been my experience with them.
That's the quote. That's the quote. God uses idiots too. Wow. Well, I mean, obviously the reason why people with leprosy are you know, very rarely contacted is because the disease is so contagious. Like, are there things that they do to, you know, make it so that you don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, so they are all theoretically not contagious anymore because we do have the medications now. It's just a matter of getting them to people in time. You might get someone medication, but it might be after the decay of their body has already begun. So they might already have lost some limbs, etc. But theoretically, those individuals are no longer contagious. And what they said to us was for the next 3 months after we left to just keep an eye on our bodies. And if like a spot started to emerge, it would be unbelievably easy for us to go to a doctor in the US and get the medication. So maybe I'd have a little spot on myself for the rest of my life, but probably not. Like, they had been taken care of really well. And the really cool thing I always have to mention with the lepers, because it's just like, it's extremely cool, is they're a totally self-sufficient community, like I mentioned, and they have their own adaptive farming and weaving structures.
Wow.
So they have the sheep, they have the looms, so they turn the sheep wool into, what is even the word?
The yarn?
The yarn, I guess. They have all of like, what I'm trying to tell you, but I don't have a textile vocabulary apparently, is that they make all of the saris for all of the missionaries of charity around the world. So the famous Mother Teresa white and blue saris are all made in the leprosy village.
I had no idea.
By these super talented, hardworking individuals. Yeah, and it's all adaptive technology, and it's not to the level that you would expect in the United States. You know, it's pretty humble, but it works.
Right.
And it was one of the best experiences of my life. And not only does God use the idiots, God uses the big jerks, which I also was, because I totally did not want to go to the leprosy village, because you get 1 day a week off there.
Yeah.
And it's Thursdays. And I did not want to go use my 1 day off to go help people again. I was like, I already used the other 6 days. And I avoided it for my whole trip, because I'm not just dumb, I'm a little mean too. And then I finally got pressured into it. There are pictures I can send you after. There are pictures that my friends took of me on the train there, like arms crossed. Like, I might as well have been thumping my foot. I was so mad that I had to go like help people again. I just had the worst attitude sometimes.
What do you mean? Like, what was the other service work?
Oh, so day to day in Calcutta, you get to give a little bit of input, or you're assigned to one of the 7 different homes that Mother Teresa and the MC has established there. So I was in a home called Shantadan. So there's 6 a.m. mass, and then breakfast in the community, which is a banana, a piece of bread, and a little chai tea. And then you all get on the buses to your different neighborhoods. So I went to Shantadan, which was a home for severely disabled little girls and young women. And day-to-day work looks like doing a bunch of laundry. Really. And I know there's a lot of controversy around foreign mission works these days.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, like, I really understand where those concerns are coming from. And I do think the majority of missions out there need some serious reworking, or maybe some things need to be considered being disbanded. But the MCs have it so right. And like, oh my gosh, they have it so right. Like, if you're coming to volunteer for a short period of time, you're not allowed to do any of the interpersonal work with the kids, which is like that fuzzy feel good work that everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
But it keeps it from being centered around you, and it keeps it from like running strangers through these young people's lives. So if you're there for less than a month, all you do is laundry.
Yeah.
Maybe every once in a while you get to help feed the kids, but like you are there primarily to lift like 30-pound buckets of wet clothes from the first floor to the rooftop, hang it, get yelled at by the women who work there. Like it is not rewarding work in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so good. You know, it's not the thing you're going to get an Instagram post from.
Yeah.
And that's the other big thing they do is you're not allowed to take pictures of the place or with the kids. If you stay more than 3 months, I believe you can get a photo pass and you're allowed to take pictures with the children. But no matter, even if you get a photo pass, you're never, ever, you have to like swear up and down that you're not going to post the pictures on the internet, because these are kids. They deserve to be protected just like a kid in America would be. And you don't want to exploit them. And it keeps everyone's hearts pure. Like the MCs, they have the model.
Yeah, no, that's so important because, I mean, yeah, I've done a little bit of mission work, but it was always short term, is like a week, you know, 10
right.
days.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I did it mostly in college or shortly after. And I didn't really have that concept of that it could be exploitive to like take pictures with these people. And a lot of them, I mean, the kids, like they think it's so cool. Like they want to be in your picture, you know? But yeah, they're just, there's almost become like a missionary industry where it's, like you said, it is almost more self-centered and like, look, I'm such a good person. Like,
absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the MC is really, I think they made the perfect model.
Yeah. So then it was on your day off? You were saying that you went to the leprosy village?
Yeah, but only on like my last week, because for weeks people have been like, come with us. And I was like, no.
Wow.
So
was it
again just a really humbling experience in the absolute best way.
Yeah. Was it emotional, like when you first saw the people?
Yeah, but I know I cried that day, but I'm pretty sure they were all happy tears because it was just one of the most joyous experiences of my life. I went with most of the volunteers in Calcutta. It's actually really funny because you go all the way to India and you don't necessarily expect everyone to speak English, but you definitely don't expect them all to be speaking Spanish, which is what it is.
Really? Oh.
Because the majority of the volunteers come from the countries that kind of still have the Catholic faith, which are going to be the Spanish-speaking countries. So my group of friends were all from Argentina, so I went with them to the village, and they all brought guitars, and they were singing all these Christmas songs in Spanish. It was just like totally delightful. Yeah.
Wow. Were most of the residents there Catholic?
I don't know. There was I think it's probably important for me to mention at this point that like we couldn't speak to each other.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, no, you're good. I never mentioned up to this point. Like, it was just kind of such a, it's funny because it's not even something I think about, because especially like my day-to-day was in the home for girls with disabilities, and they were, I think, pretty much all nonverbal. Maybe some of them could understand when the local women spoke to them, but they're pretty much all nonverbal. So like, speaking communication never really crossed my mind.
Okay, yeah. So it's not even just the foreign language barrier. There's
yeah. Which is cool though, because then it really requires you to figure out like, how else can I tell someone that I love them or that I'm grateful or etc.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you described it as like a physical touch ministry, because obviously that could also have implications that could seem, you know, exploitive or risky.
100%, yeah.
but you're right that it is. I mean, like, we're physical beings, like, you know, whether it's just like a handshake when you meet somebody or a hug when you say goodbye, like, just we connect with one another, and we're supposed to connect physically with one another, you know, and it's not supposed to be this you know, either like you can either go to the extreme of like avoiding contact, or the other extreme where it's like, you know, obviously inappropriate contact, you know?
Right. And I think especially kind of in the, I don't know, political, social tenor of America right now,
yeah,
we can swing so far one way that we totally miss the point, even though we're trying to do the right thing. So it's like, don't touch anyone. It'll be inappropriate.
I know.
When the reality is exactly what you said, find that sweet spot. Like, don't be inappropriate. Don't force touch on people. But like, if a child is like looking for a hug,
Yeah.
don't get bogged down in.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I worked at a Catholic summer camp for years, and we always had to do, the they call it virtus.
Totally,
it's like the, the child predator training, and I get it, but I think the issue is, on the one hand, like, it makes you fearful of normal, healthy physical contact, but also, to be completely honest, like, if you're somebody who is disturbed in that way, I don't know that that's gonna make a difference. You're gonna be like, oh, I didn't know this was inappropriate.
Oh, I feel the exact same way. Yeah. It's just so hard. And I think we oftentimes try to like create rules and legislate around evil. And it's like evil will break the rules. It's so tricky though, but I really do recognize the church with all of the virtues, protecting God's children training. Like the intentions are so good.
Right.
It's just like, what can you do if someone's intent on harm? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in a weird parallel, you sort of see the same thing with like chastity,
Yeah, totally. That's a really good example. Yeah, it's a really good example.
Where it's like,
totally.
like obviously the intention is good, like to, save sex for marriage, but then it can become this weird legalistic thing where it's like, you can only give a side hug and you can't make premarital eye contact, and Well,
and then we get into this weird place where it's the same with chastity, with sex before marriage, or even talking about pornography, where somehow in our rulemaking, I think we've really like, how do I want to say this? It's done something a little bit strange to us, especially to young men. I feel they just are so controlled by shame sometimes, like shame and fear of doing the wrong thing because we've made it so legalistic, and it's really confusing because we're like, don't break the rules, but no one will tell you what the rules are.
Right.
And how are you supposed to know? And then it's just, I've seen, sometimes it feels like, gosh, I don't know. Are you single? Are you dating? Are you married?
Single as
Girl, me too.
Pringle.
And I really do feel like the ideal man is like a recent convert, maybe like a year and a half in, because then they have all the teaching and belief now, but they didn't grow up with like some of the weird complexes that we did.
Well, I mean, no, I don't even know how to say this, but like, obviously, like, you want a man who values like chastity and purity, but you don't want a man who's just like totally like lust driven. But you have almost like a weirder thing where there are certain guys who they almost
scared of their sexuality.
Well, they're either scared of their sexuality or they like hyper value like virginity in a way that's creepy,
Totally.
Or like they value modesty in a way that's creepy, where it's like, just calm down, like just be normal. I don't know how else to say it. Just be normal. Yes.
Yes. 100%.
Like, have you been on? Do you do Catholic match?
This is gonna sound a little bit like it always sounds a little weird when I say this, but because of the nature of what I do for work, Catholic match can be a little weird for me.
Sure.
I'm hyper accessible.
No, it's weird no matter what, but you're right.
It's weird no matter what. And I have a lot of fear about it, like coming into my professional life, and there are some real weirdos out there. So I worry about, like, especially with me traveling, like I'm physically accessible. Like, it's very possible I could show up at one of these guys' churches. Catholic match, I had it for like an afternoon once, because I do my dating advice online once a week, and I'm like, okay, gotta like try everything, see how everything is, so I can talk to people about it. Catholic match, I don't know why it has to be so. I don't know why it is the way. I don't know what to say.
Well, yeah, it's something that like I want it to be good, and I have had good experiences on there. I have met actually like really great guys on there, but there's also just weird people on there, which I guess is everything. But I mean, weird.
That's life, yeah.
You have these guys who want like their trad wife,
Yes, I do.
or this was fun. Like. I came across so many guys who in their like description of themselves or in their description of what they're looking for, they're like, nobody who's vaxxed or nobody who's masked and I'm like, I don't want you to mention the vaccine. I don't care if you have it or not. I don't want you to mention it in your dating profile because
I feel the same way where it's like, I have opinions on those things, but I wouldn't put it in a dating profile,
No.
you know? And I feel the exact same way that you do, where it's like, if you have to put it, if this is such a big part of who you are, you have to put it in your profile, that stresses me out.
If the fact that you don't have the vaccine is your personality, like, you don't have a personality. But I'm not on there now. I had to take a break. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm taking a break from dating in general or just from actively online dating in general, because it can be
totally
stressful. It shouldn't be stressful, but it's stressful.
It really can be. I don't even know what to say. I kind of think there was a golden age. Okay, here's my trend forecast.
Okay.
I think there was a golden age of like dating apps, and I think it was pre-pandemic, and I think it's truly all falling apart right now.
That's good.
I think that I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's like we're experiencing, a lot of people right now, we're experiencing like a painful reckoning in the dating world. Between hookup culture, between dating apps, but I think it's about to all fall apart. I think the pandemic killed it. So shout out to that for doing one good thing.
Interesting. So you see this as a good thing. You think it's good that online dating?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be painful. I think everyone I know is having the worst time. Dating ever that I've seen it. And like, I was on the dating apps in New York City in like 2018 through 2020, and it was a party, you know. Like,
interesting. That's interesting.
I'm not like, I didn't walk away with like the love of my life, so it's like, was it effective in that way? Maybe no, but I mean, I was going on really fun dates with really like cool, cute guys every week, and it just wasn't.
See, like that's like my vision of like what dating should be, and then I just get on and I'm disappointed. You know? Yeah.
And I don't know, sometimes I do think there are levels to it where it's like city to city. Boston, because I did Hinge in Boston, and I don't know about Maryland, but in Boston there's like one type of guy that you just copy and paste into like a Red Sox jersey, a Bruins jersey, a Celtics jersey. They're like all named Brian. It's the craziest thing. And it's just that's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I want out of life. And I have my best friend and I have been talking about this a lot. We're like, oh no, are we in the wrong city? Because if I'm being honest about what I want out of my life, my future, first of all, I don't want to live in a city. I don't want to live in Boston. So does it make sense that what I'm looking for would be in the place that I don't want to be? Probably not.
No, that's a really good point. And I think like I'm in a more rural area, and so there's a really, there's a lot of guys in the DC area, but there's also a lot of girls in the DC area, so they don't necessarily want to come down to Southern Maryland,
No, I totally know what you're saying.
Because
what I'm looking for is
Oh,
I feel the same way. I'm like looking for like a New Hampshire man, but like, why would he come to the north end of Boston?
So I don't know. I don't have a strategy right now. I think my strategy is just enjoy my life and
enjoy your life. And honestly, I think the best advice anyone can give anyone is to become the type of person you're looking for.
Yes. No, so true. So true. I see these people who have a long list of what they're looking for. I'm like, okay, well, do you supply those qualities?
Absolutely, 100%. I've had to take a tough look at myself, and I'm currently in the middle of taking some changes, because there are some things like, I was talking to a friend about this last night, where like, okay, so I really don't like the idea of being with someone who plays video games. I think they're emasculating. And so then one of my friends was like, okay, but that means no like binging reality TV for you, which is fine. I cut that out a couple years ago. It was a little bit of a problem during the pandemic, but I'm better now. There wasn't anything to do back then.
No, I'm proud of you. I finally stopped watching The Bachelor, so that's like,
oh, good. You go, girl.
But now there's Love Is Blind, so.
Oh, I know. And then, I'm take a pretty hard stance, as I think a lot of women do, at least on the inside, but I do very much on the outside. I take a pretty hard stance against pornography, and especially like I would really, it's not something I would want in a relationship or in a marriage. And I was thinking the other day, they're not totally the same, but I was thinking, for me, like, social media can be my porn, and like the way that it does more sneakily turn people into objects for consumption, and the way that like sometimes I turn to it as a substitute for the real thing, which is in-person socialization or getting out of the house and looking at the world. I think that when I envision what type of wife and mom I want to be, my relationship with it is not healthy enough to be that woman. And I think there are people, like, I'm not condemning it. I think there are people who can handle it more healthily than I can. And it gets really confusing for me because my work is tied to it. So I can make all these excuses about being like, oh, but I'm a content creator.
Right.
But it's just, you just have to be honest with yourself if your relationship with it's not healthy. And I think mine isn't. So I'm experimenting with only having it downloaded when I do the Love Life updates.
Okay. That's wise. And I think I feel similarly in the sense that, like, first of all, yeah, absolutely, pornography use is just a huge red flag. And I just genuinely hope that it's not a pipe dream to, like, find a guy who's, like, several years clean from that.
I don't think it is, know. I think there's a rising number of people waking up to it.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like, I think my like social media addictions help me to be more compassionate towards somebody who's struggled with that. Because I'm like, well, I mean, I get it. Like, I get, like, the dopamine hit when I'm just, like, scrolling through reels and it's like, oh no, an hour has passed. And, like, what have I done? I've watched 100 reels or something stupid.
Oh, and it messes up with my whole life because then I'm in bed scrolling.
Yes.
So now I'm not sleeping the way I need, and then I wake up tired and grumpy, and I don't have energy for my workout, and I'm breaking out, and I'm like taking it out on other people, and it's just craziness.
Yeah.
So I need a reset. I just have not been who I want to be or who I want to attract, so I need to take another crack at that.
Yeah, that's wise. Yeah, I think that's how maybe I initially found you online is somehow, like, you were posting, like, dating things or people were sharing their dating how's your love life updates or dating stories. And
so I do it once a week.
And I think, like, to be like a single Catholic who's, like, over the age of 25 or something, like, it's such a weird space to be in, that you just, like, need people who are in that same space to commiserate with.
Totally. I think it gets tricky too, right? Because even with, like, the purity aspect, people are like, save yourself to marriage. And we were all like, yeah, of course I will, assuming that we would all be the ones that got married at 23.
Yeah.
So now here I am at 28 being like, not exactly what I signed up for, but okay.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. It's not like I'm gonna, like, change my mind about it. Like, that would not
exactly
bring anything good. But you're like, well, yeah, chastity's super easy when you get married at 22. You had your first boyfriend in college, and then you married them.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So just, on this adventure, and no one's happy in the dating scene right now. Nobody's like, yes, this is it's and it's not just us, it's not just the Catholics, it's not the people who are trying to date chastely, it's everyone I know from any walk of life and belief. Everyone's struggling, which is good. A lot of times things need to break before they can heal, so I just think it's breaking right now, very slowly.
Yeah. That's a good perspective, because I think we feel like it should be so easy, and then the fact that it's not, obviously means that there's something that's not working, Right. Because it's not, I mean, it's a numbers problem, but it's also not a numbers problem, because there's, the same amount of men and women in the world, and, anybody who's paired up is just paired up at a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's not like there's, like, one woman who has, like, 5 guys, and suddenly there's, like, way less guys,
I do think that it can be a little bit of a numbers problem within the Catholic community, because I do think, like, I think Catholic young women outnumber Catholic young men in our age group.
Yeah.
And I also think that what I would describe as, like, dateable, eligible young women definitely outnumber dateable, eligible young men.
Yeah.
And I see these girls that are, like, ready to go. They're looking for it. They're putting an effort in all aspects of their lives. And to be honest, I don't see the young men putting in the same amount of effort a lot of times.
Yes.
And I think that's because they don't have to, because the numbers do work in their favor. So, like, they don't have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And Lord knows my butt's in there 6 times a week.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, what the problem is like if a woman is single, because she's typically the one who's pursued, she's like, okay, well, what can I do to work on myself to make myself more attractive to guys, or more attractive in general? And, so she's going to be working on her health, her physical health, mental health, her appearance, blah, blah, blah. And, like, you have some guys who will do that, but I feel like the more common response for guys who are unwilling to do that is, like, or who aren't, like getting a lot of dates with women is that they kind of reclude and they go into sort of that like I don't know, like self-defeated mindset where they don't
totally
improve.
The victim mentality.
Exactly. And then it's kind of like that incel thing, you know, where they like blame all the women, like the women,
Yes.
they're so superficial, you know,
Right.
I'm a perfectly good guy. And it's like, you play video games in your basement and you haven't finished college.
Yeah, no, totally. 100%. And the thing is, those guys, if they just get out of their head, there's tons of girls that would be interested or would be open.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's not the Victoria's Secret model.
Right.
Okay. Like, and the same vein, I'm not looking for someone over 6 feet who makes six figures. You know?
Right.
Just looking for a nice, normal man.
Nice. I know. Like people are like, oh, okay, are my standards too high? And I'm like, well, what are my standards? My standards are they're a good person and they have a good personality and I'm attracted to them. And it's like,
yeah. But the thing is also, like, as a woman, I could be attracted to like most people.
Oh, really? See,
you know?
I feel like I'm the opposite.
Okay. So here's the thing. I could be attracted to most people physically. It's where things get tough around personality. It's when I get really picky.
No, see, I'm the complete opposite.
You?
I could be friends. I could have a conversation with anybody, like, and I could enjoy it, and I could be friends with the strangest person. But then I'm like, I don't want to kiss them ever.
See, I'm the total opposite. I could kiss anybody.
Really?
But it's like if I don't think you're funny, you're done. And I'm like pretty picky about that because I'm just, you know, I made a whole life for myself out of being like funny and smart.
Yeah.
So it's like if the guy isn't funnier and smarter, we're in trouble.
Yeah. No, I mean, I relate to that in a sense. Like, yeah, I want somebody who. Yeah, I don't want to be the smarter person in the relationship, and like I'm pretty smart, so that kind of raises the bar.
But I should get like you. I should start looking for cute boys. I've just been kind of taking whatever comes. That's a good idea.
Well, it's not even. I don't even know what it is because it's like, it's not even like the guys are objectively unattractive. It's just like I'm not attracted to you, and I don't know what it is. I can't figure out what it is.
Well, here's the thing: you're not supposed to be attracted to everybody.
Yeah.
What chaos would ensue if you were?
So true.
Like at the end of the day, you're only supposed to end up with one person. So life's gonna be a lot better if you don't like.
That's really true.
Have a crush on everybody.
I know, but yeah, I like get down on myself and I like almost like spiral every time I reject somebody after like 2 or 3 days because I'm like, he's a great guy. There's nothing. But
he's not
wrong
your
with
guy.
Him. Yeah. But you feel
I get it.
You're like, I'm not rejecting this person because they're a jerk. I'm rejecting them because of who they are, even though who they are is
exactly fine. And it's better that you do that because now you're freeing him up for the girl who is going to be like, oh my gosh, that was my dream guy.
Yeah, which has happened so many times. Like so many guys people have either tried to set me up with or who I've been friends with and always been like, I don't know if I just am not interested in them in that way. Like they meet a woman who is gorgeous, amazing personality, and who was like attracted them from the very beginning. And so I'm like, well, good thing I didn't try to force it because they would have missed out.
Absolutely 100%. And we all deserve someone who is like over the moon attracted to us and someone who we are over the moon attracted to. And it's very possible. And if you're trying to force it with someone or someone trying to force it with you, it's not right. Everyone deserves more than that. Yeah.
And I think the trick also for some people is to learn that it doesn't mean there's something objectively wrong with you.
No, it's just exactly. That's something I've been having to work on because I realize I take things so personally.
Yeah.
I will break up with someone and somehow still find a way to like take it personally. And it's like, you did this.
That's funny.
Yeah. That was the most recent one where I was like, okay, I got to look inside a little bit.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, like I have a guilty pleasure with the show Love is Blind, and I don't know. Do you know the premise of that show?
I watched the first season.
Okay. It's like not that good, honestly, but it's still interesting. But like I've seen this happen many times where the guy, especially, will like once they see each other in person, he'll have a hard time like being attracted to the woman, even though she is objectively gorgeous. Like every time I've seen this happen, it's a beautiful woman. It's not somebody who's like. Like.
Well, okay, so I didn't watch the new season, but I was reading online about it.
Yeah.
Me trying to like elevate the experience, but I read online about it, and it's so funny because I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, well, I'm googling pictures of what these people look like, and I had the exact same reaction as you, where it's like the girl who they're like, I'm just not as attracted to you as I am to like that
this
other girl.
Yeah.
It's so random. They're both beautiful girls, but a lot of times the girl who he's turning down is the girl who I was like, whoa, that's a knockout.
Yeah.
That's a girl who I feel like I wouldn't want to stand next to at the party.
Right.
And it just is so subjective. But I don't know. I don't know if it's like this for men as well, but as women, I feel like if a guy isn't into us, we take that as like damning truth.
Like
like, it's because I'm objectively gross.
Exactly. Like I'm a hideous person. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just hard. I don't really don't think it was meant to be this hard or should be this hard.
Yeah.
But we've really, through these, I'd say, post-sexual revolution and technology, new age, like we've really made it so much harder on ourselves to the point of almost impossibility.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so true.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about your poetry because
yeah, sure.
That's great. But like the dating sidebar, I wanted to get to that anyways, so we got to it in the middle.
Great.
But so after you left Calcutta, like, did you immediately have all this inspiration and start writing your show?
Yeah. So I started writing a little bit my senior year of college. Before that, I graduated with a marketing degree.
Okay.
And I was realizing kind of in real time at the end of my college experience, like, oh no, not only do I not like doing this, I'm also like really not good at it. I was like failing a bunch of classes. I just like could not get the accounting thing down. I was really having a hard time with the analytical aspects. Which makes sense. I wish I could go back and give my baby self a hug and be like, that's because you're supposed to write poems. But I started writing a little bit my senior year because my best friend and I were traveling a lot together. So I was basically writing like a travel blog.
Oh, cool.
And then I went to Calcutta and I started like switching a little bit more towards poetry while I was in Calcutta and realizing that I was enjoying writing poetry. And then I got super sick while I was in Calcutta from drinking some bad water. And I ended up bedridden and I was just, all I could do was lay in bed on my friend's iPad all day.
Yeah.
And I found spoken word poetry online for the first time ever. And it was like these old, maybe like 2002 videos of Kanye West and Alicia Keys actually reciting what would go on to be like their first hits as poetry.
Wow.
So it was them pre-famous, really cool, really humble. And listening to their work, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was just that kind of Holy Spirit movement inside of like, I feel like I could do this. And so then I was looking up online, like, where should you go for poetry? And everything pointed to this place called the New Eurekan Poets Cafe in New York City. And so I was like, okay, after I leave Calcutta, I'm going to move to New York City. So I did just that. I left Calcutta, got a flight to New York, and lived there for the next couple of years.
Did you have a job lined up?
I did not. No, I applied for a ton of stuff when I got there. Nobody would hire me because I didn't have any like waitressing experience or retail experience. And I applied and I applied and applied. And then, are you familiar with Buffalo Exchange?
No.
Okay, it is like a giant thrift store. They're all over the country, and they're super trendy. And I got a job at the Buffalo Exchange, kind of close to Times Square. And they told me it's very, very trendy, very like cool girl. And they like, when they interview you, they give you a bag of clothes and you have to pull out each piece and tell them whether or not it's cool or not and why.
What? Oh my gosh.
It was really, really like,
wow.
I was just like this kid from a small town who'd been living in Ohio for the last couple of years and then freaking India. Like I had no idea what was cool or not. And I totally failed their stupid little tests. And they told me, they were like, yeah, Claire, like we hired you, like you have no sense of style, but you seem really sweet. So we thought you'd add to the team.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So it was just like that was my first job. And I got fired from that because remember when I mentioned I couldn't do the accounting classes?
Yeah.
That came back to bite me in balancing a cash register.
Oh, no.
So my register was never what it was supposed to be.
Oh no.
And yeah, they were like, Claire, like they sat me down in the office and they were like, at first we thought you were stealing because one day your register was like $50 short. But then the next day we realized she's not stealing because your register was like 150 over. She's like, is she donating? Like, I just have never really had like math skills or organizational skills.
Yeah, she's
So
not a thief. She's just bad at math.
she's just bad at math. Yeah. Remember what I said? God uses the idiots too. But yeah, I did that. After I got fired from that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in New York City. I don't have a job. I worked at a Jewish summer camp. I did a lot of nannying. I did, yeah. I'm not Jewish. I taught the kids Hebrew, which was hard because I don't speak that. We did I learned a lot of really cool things. I brought in a bunch of camp counselors from Israel. It was awesome.
Wow.
I was a nanny. I was a dog walker. I did a little bit of everything. A lot of days I was working from like 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. It was really, really long days just so I could be in New York City so that I could be near, the poetry scene.
And so what is the poetry scene like?
Yeah, for me, I got my start at, like I said, a place called New Eurekan Poets Cafe. And every Monday night, they have their open mic, completely open to the public. It's just a matter of getting in line in time. So the doors open at 9 p.m., but the line begins forming at 5 p.m.
No way.
And they only take the first 25 people. The line is outdoors. You have to hold your spot. Rain, shine, snow. I definitely waited in line in snow many times. And you wait in line for like 4 hours in the rain, all so that when you get to the bouncer, you can give him $10 to buy yourself 5 minutes of stage time. And it's an audience of maybe around, like, I know. But that was the way to get the start, right? So it's an audience of maybe like 100, 150 people, and you get 5 minutes, and it's super supportive, non-competitive. It's one of the most supportive environments. People will snap for you, they'll clap for you. Like, a lot of times people are just starting out, so they'll forget their words or something go weird with their music, because it's not just poets. I'd say it's actually primarily a rap and hip hop scene, with like poetry as the second. And then after that, various different types of musicians, storytellers, and the occasional very brave comic, which I think is the hardest thing to start out in. That's the most brutal form of self-expression.
Yeah, you can't fake. Like, they're gonna clap for you no matter what after your poem, but like,
you can't fake laughter.
You can't fake laugh.
Yeah. Totally. So I did that for maybe a year and a half before I started transitioning to taking professional gigs. And then 2.5 years I attempted to begin going full time, with a lot of false starts, because it's really hard out there. And then the moment that I really was getting a lot of momentum and booking shows, because my first tour, I lost money on my first tour. Second tour, after 3 weeks, I'm lucky if I made $500.
Wow.
But that's because back then, like, I was just starting out. I felt really spicy for asking people for $500 for a show. Really, really. I thought that was just like extremely spicy. And it was at the time, because also people were taking a chance on me. I had rejection letters where people would be like, we only book people who the audience knows, and nobody knows who you are.
Yeah. Wow.
And it seemed so harsh at the time, but I've gone back and reread those letters now, and I get it.
Yeah.
Like, they were right. Like, I wanted the immediate success, and I hadn't earned it yet. And it needed to take years. Like, anything, I really do live by the idea that anything in life worth having is on the other side of commitment. And I think that would even solve, like, you and I's dating problems. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you just found a person with a good heart and good intentions, you really could fall in love with anybody at the end of the day, if you committed to them and if they committed to you. And I also, it's the same way that I feel. There's this clip of Kanye West talking about, like, and it's just exactly how I feel. Sometimes I get worried because, like, I do a lot of times, like, not the political stuff, but like other crazy stuff he says, like the non-political stuff. I'm like, you know what? This man's got a point. Because, like, he was saying in an interview, he's like, I could quit rap tomorrow and go become an astronaut. And the interviewers laughing at him, and they're like, no, you couldn't. Like, that takes like a ton of hard work, like all this training, all this math, you have to do like flight school, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, but I could do it because I can do anything. And that's really exactly how I feel about myself. And Kanye's a Gemini, and I'm a Gemini. So, like, do I think there are parallels? Yes.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't. Are there personality types associated with the horoscopes?
Not like personality types. There are like inclinations, not maybe personalities, just like inclinations to do this or to do that. but I really do feel that way. Like I committed myself to poetry. Here's the thing. Looking back, that awful accounting class, if I had actually given my whole heart to it, I probably could be an accountant today.
Yeah.
There's really not much that you can't unlock with hard work and grit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I had to find out in my creative career. But I wanted the success and the ease up front. But it wouldn't have been worth it. Like it had to be hard won in order for it to be valuable.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great lesson, because I think I think people want immediate success, and there's sort of like two ways of believing in yourself. Like there's the believing in yourself where you're like, I can do it if I really work hard, if I really push myself, like I know I can do it. But then there's the believing in yourself where it's just more entitlement, like I'm great. Why doesn't everybody recognize that? Like totally.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. So
did you
trying to work for it?
Yeah. Did you have to just were you basically your own agent, or did you have to actually like work with somebody who was kind of?
Yeah, I was my own agent. I continue to be my own agent because I'm really not in the place even now. Now, I mean, I'm charging a lot more than I used to, but I still am not in the place where it's like, yeah, I should split fees with somebody.
Right.
And my world is a funny world because I still kind of get pigeonholed in Catholic universities or the Newman Center, et cetera. Yeah. And that's a pretty specific world. Like there are agents and programs that get you booked at different universities around the country. Right. But I've thought about it, and I think for right now, self-representation is what makes the most sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then you kind of also have to be pigeonholed into like a certain almost image of like crisp and clean and
yes. Yeah. You know. It's the balance of trying to work in the Catholic art world and the secular art world is extremely, extremely tricky.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So what is this St. Joseph's Home for Artisans that you're part of?
Yeah, so in 2021, I had a show in Boston, and afterwards, a priest who I actually just got breakfast with this morning, Father Michael, came over to me, and he was like, that was incredible. Like, let me know what I can do to support young Catholic artists. And I was like, well, you could give us a house. So he
I love the boldness. Give us a house.
Yeah. So yeah, he had an abandoned convent that had fallen into disrepair, and he was like, if you guys can fix it up, you can have an artist colony there. So that's what we did. We spent 3 months scraping wallpaper, spraying molds, painting walls. And then June 2021, we moved in the first cohort of artists, and now we're on our 5th cohort. We've had visual artists, dancers, musicians, writers, videographers, photographers, you name it, printmakers, all come stay anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months and live in a faith-based community. We start every day with morning mass together, and they just create all day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do they like pay rent? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so initially it was totally free housing because the place was pretty, it was humble, you know? We'll go with humble.
Below regulation standards.
Yes, that's exactly right, yeah. But we've put in a lot of work into the place. So in order to accommodate that, we charge a very, very small amount of rent, like a very subsidized, probably just about as cheap as you'll get, not just especially in a major city, but just about anywhere, like in the country. Yeah. So we ask for a small financial contribution.
Okay. And so roughly how many people can live there at a time?
There are 7 bedrooms.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our floor. We all live 7 tiny bedrooms because it's an old convent. They're itty bitty bedrooms, and my favorite quirk that I love to tell people about is there are no closets in any of the bedrooms because they were nuns' bedrooms.
Oh my gosh!
One outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how do you find people to move in, or do they seek you out?
Primarily they seek us out. Every once in a while I'll see someone's work online, and I'm like, oh, I've got to reach out to them.
Yeah.
But primarily they reach out to us.
And it's always Catholic people?
We're definitely open to non-Catholics, definitely Christians, and even if somebody was agnostic or of a different faith tradition, someone who is Jewish or Islamic, like I would definitely be open to that. The question would be, it's less are we comfortable, it's more are they comfortable, because like part of our community commitment is going to mass every day. So like, are they comfortable with that? And we'd also ask that they create work that doesn't antagonize our beliefs or fight against social teaching, etc. So it's one of those tricky catch-22s where we're very much open to it, but it's just, would someone else be open to it?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's cool, because I would imagine like being an artist, probably living with other artists, other creative people, actually like spurs you on to like, you know, be innovative and, you know, like helps you come up with more ideas.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever do any collaborative work together?
Yeah, a lot of times we do, especially when you have a performing artists and videographers. That's really helpful. Right now we have all visual artists, so they just are always in the living room together every single day, just painting their little hearts out. So they've come together quite nicely. So that's been really, really beautiful to watch.
That's so cool. And so what, like, are you sort of like the, I don't know, like the house mother or something?
Yeah, I really, really try not to be, but it just like is what it is.
We sort of have the technical title. Yeah, take care of like the practical things.
Yeah, because it's like technically I'm creative director and that's what I serve as, but it also turns into like mommy.
Right.
But I'm happy to do it, and like this is really an absolute dream come true, and so I just have to move with gratitude. Really.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I think like the tough thing about being a performing artist, especially with something like poetry, is that like, since everything is accessible online, people are like, well, I could just watch a video of you saying your poem, or
absolutely,
like, why should I go to a show? Which is, I mean, sad, because being live in person is such a different experience, but we've kind of
and during the pandemic, everybody was like, oh my gosh, we missed live entertainment, and now they're back to their phones.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you working on right now?
Yeah, I have my next show at Iowa State on Valentine's Day. Actually, we're doing love poems, so that'll be really fun. I'm out in California for a couple shows in the spring. The idea, usually winter is when I take my break. I leave Boston, I leave the artist house, and I go write all new material for myself somewhere else. Just having a hard time figuring out where somewhere else is going to be. So yeah, just trying to figure out where I'll go for the winter to go in residency in someone else's program. So last winter I spent all of February in Iceland at an art residency program.
Oh my gosh,
I've done art residencies in Washington State, all over. Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out where to go for probably January so that I can make it back here in time for February for my Iowa State show.
So do you just find like an Airbnb, or do you find people like that you can rent with, or just crash?
No, they're pre-existing programs like ours.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah. Is there like a whole network of these like artist homes?
They're not networks, unfortunately. Like you really have to dig around for them because none of them are connected. They're all just like small time operations for the most part. Yeah. But there were thousands of them all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does like the sort of boho lifestyle, like, does that suit you? Do you enjoy that, or do you like desire to just put roots somewhere and like never leave?
I desire to put roots somewhere, just not a city. Like the idea is to settle down with a family and do something similar to what I'm doing here, but in a rural setting. Just a lot more space. But yeah, the boho lifestyle is an interesting thing because, how do I say this? It's really hard to do it well, to do it without it becoming like kind of like a squatter lifestyle, or like what does boho look like while still doing the dishes, while still keeping a schedule, while still making money. So, and I think that's probably a question that a lot of like similar people who do like van life have had to figure out, is like, what is the right way to do boho lifestyle? Because it can descend into something really unfulfilling and aimless pretty quickly, and messy and gross. So just figuring out how to do it with structure and integrity.
Yeah, totally. And then talk about Catholic TV. Like, what is that and what's your role in that network?
Yeah, absolutely. So I co-host a morning show called This Is the Day. And we do kind of like what you'd see, I guess, just on any morning show. We talk about the news. We talk about, book releases. We interview actors on Catholic and Christian programming, a lot of authors, a lot of ministry leaders. So a nice mix between the lighter stuff and the heavier stuff.
Yeah. Is that based in Boston?
Yeah, they're maybe like 30 minutes from where I live. So nice and close, and they're the best team ever. I absolutely love everybody over there. So it's just been a huge unexpected blessing in my life.
Yeah. So is that a daily thing? Like that's kind of your day job, so to speak?
No, I'm there like once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too bad. I definitely like to keep a certain level of autonomy in my life. Like
sure.
The freelancing lifestyle has its ups and downs, but it's what's right for me.
Yeah. Is your family like supportive of that?
Yeah. I think they were a little bit nervous at first, and now they see that it's working, so they're all cool with it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been really great talking to you, Claire.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if I'm ever in Boston, I'll hit you up.
Please do. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
And so if people want to find you, follow your work, where are you online?
You can find me on my website at ClareMcCallan.com or on Instagram at Claire_McCallan.
Cool. And if people ever want to book you for things, is that through your website?
Yeah, that is the right way to do it.
Awesome. And then you have 2 books, right?
Yeah, Stations and Mangers. So Mangers is the Advent book and Stations is the Lenten book.
Okay. And those are on just through you or on Amazon or?
You can get them right on my website.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, Claire, thank you so much. This has been a delight. And of
course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck with your career.
Likewise.
And
Thank
your
you
dating
so much.
life.
Oh, you too, girl. You too.
All righty. God bless. Oh, I think I lost you with audio. Hello? Hey, I think we lost you there.
Sorry, you know what it was? It was my I was talking to you on data, and then my Wi-Fi automatically connected to some place I passed. I think it was my eye doctor.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.